Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. Chapter 31. I watched as Mom scanned through the permission papers for the football tournament trip to Philadelphia. Her lips were pursed, and her brows slightly furrowed, as if she were trying to decide whether to sign or not. Leaning against the counter with my arms crossed, I could feel my nerves tightening. "Mom," I finally said, "what's with that look?" She shrugged, tapping the pen on the table. "Nate, this is your first out-of-state trip. Of course I'll let you go, but..." "But what?" I asked, confused. "I'm just worried, that's all," she sighed. When she noticed my anxious expression, she rolled her eyes. "Nathan, I'm your mother. Worrying is part of my job description. You're almost 18, but you'll always be my baby. You get the picture." Yeah, I mumbled, forcing a small smile. Mom chuckled softly and began filling out the forms. I rested my palms on the counter, staring blankly at the sink. This trip meant more to me than anyone knew. Sure, it was about the tournament, but it was also about Trevor. We'd be sharing a hotel room. Cool, right? Except we'd also be stuck with Dave and Brock, two of the most nosy, suspicious guys ever. I tried to convince myself to relax, but I couldn't. "Don't lie," I told myself. "You want him just as much as he wants you." I shook the thought away and glanced at Mom, still buried in paperwork, unaware of the storm inside me. What would my parents think if they ever found out about Trevor and me? We'd never talked about anything like that, about being gay or liking someone of the same gender. I honestly had no idea what they thought about it. And that scared me. Not because I thought they'd hate me, but because everything might change. People's perspectives always shift once they know. Even if they don't mean to. That's the sad truth. My phone suddenly vibrated in my pocket, startling me. I glanced at Mom, then pulled it out and saw Tracy's name on the screen. I hesitated before answering. "Tracy." "Nate." "Hey babe," she said cheerfully. "I was wondering if you wanted to come to the mall with me in a few hours?" I bit my lip, staring blankly at the wall. Tracy had been asking me to hang out a lot lately, and I kept turning her down. I didn't even know why anymore. Or maybe I did. Because I had to end it. What was the point of being with someone if I didn't love them anymore? "Yeah," I said after a moment, forcing some cheer into my voice. "Call me when you're ready. I'll pick you up." "Really?" she gasped, sounding so happy that guilt hit me like a punch to the chest. "Yeah," I repeated softly. "Really? Okay. Oh my gosh. Bye, babe." "Bye," I whispered before hanging up. My eyes landed on my phone's wallpaper, Tracy and me at last year's spring fling. She was smiling brightly, showing off her new braces-free smile. I, on the other hand, looked like I was squinting straight into the flash. It had been a good time. I just wanted things to feel good again. I wanted to stop feeling like I was lost in my own life. I cared for Tracy, truly, but not in the way she deserved. This needed to end. And it would. Today. Chapter 32. "Thanks," I muttered to the barista as he handed me two smoothies, strawberry for me, coconut pineapple for Tracy. My hand trembled slightly as I gave him the $10 bill. "You all right, Nate?" he asked. It took me a second to recognize him. He went to my school from my gym class last year. A quiet guy, always stayed out of drama. "Yeah," I nodded, taking the drinks. "I'm good. Thanks." He gave me a small smile, and I turned toward Tracy, who sat at a round table in the food court. She was playing with her hair, brushing it out of her face as she stared off into space. This was it. The moment I'd been dreading. "Tracy, I have to tell you something," I whispered to myself, taking a deep breath as I walked over to her. She looked up and smiled the moment she saw me. "Ah yes. Thank you, babe." She took her smoothie, sipping it with a grin. "You're welcome," I said quietly, sitting down across from her. She noticed something off right away. "Hey, are you okay? You seem distant lately. Tell me about it." "I'm fine," I lied. Just what?" she pressed gently. My chest felt tight. How was I supposed to say this? How do you end something that had lasted so long? I wiped my sweaty palms on my jeans. My throat felt dry. Tracy, I began, my voice trembling. I can't do this anymore. Her smile slowly faded. What do you mean? I couldn't look at her. I think we should break up. The words hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Tracy stared at me, speechless at first. You're kidding, right? Nate, tell me you're joking. I couldn't answer. I just looked down, feeling my stomach twist in guilt. Her voice rose, cracking slightly. Nathan, why? What did I do wrong? Nothing, I said quickly. You didn't do anything wrong. Then what is it? Her voice wavered. Is there someone else? My eyes widened. No. Tracy, it's not that. There's no one else. She stared at me for a long time, her eyes filling with tears. Then why, Nate? Why are you doing this to us? We've been together for almost 4 years. We planned everything, New York, college, all of it, and now you're just ending it? Like this. Tracy, please understand, I said softly. I just don't love you the way I used to. Her face fell. The tears she'd been holding back finally slipped free. I closed my eyes, unable to look at her anymore. You don't love me? She whispered. My voice cracked. I'm sorry. And for a moment, the sound of the busy mall faded away, leaving only the silence between us, heavy with everything we couldn't say. I shook my head slowly. I'm really sorry, Tracy. I do still care about you, just not in the way you want me to. She let out a short, bitter laugh. Oh, right. This is where you say, let's stay friends, isn't it? I opened my eyes and looked at her, pleading. Please. I don't want to lose you completely. I still want you in my life, just not as my girlfriend. Tracy stared at me, her expression blank at first before she shook her head in disbelief. I can't believe this, she whispered. She grabbed her purse and pushed back her chair, clearly ready to leave. Tracy, wait. I stood quickly and reached for her arm, but she pulled away sharply, her eyes filled with hurt. No, Nate, she said firmly, her voice trembling but strong. Don't do this. I need space, some time to think before I can even look at you again, okay? I sighed, slipping my hands into my pockets. Come on, Tracy, don't be like that. Please. No. Her voice broke slightly. Just, no. Without another word, she turned and walked away. A few people in the food court were watching, but I barely noticed. My heart was pounding too loudly in my ears. Tracy! I called after her, my voice cracking. Tracy, please. She didn't turn around. She just kept walking, through the crowd, through the noise, and out of my reach. I sank back into my chair, running a shaky hand through my hair before burying my face in my palms. What had I just done? Chapter 33. Nathan's POV. All right, boys. Coach shouted over the noise. Everyone, form a line in front of the bus so we can load your bags. No pushing. Come on, you're practically adults. He blew the whistle again, making a few of us jump. The team shuffled into what was supposed to be a line, though it was more like a scattered crowd. Some players worked together to hoist their luggage into the compartment, while others just tossed in small backpacks. I stood with Dave, Mitchell, and Sam watching the chaos. Man, we should have been on the road already. Dave complained. These guys take longer than girls to get ready. Sam chuckled. Relax, it's only 9:30. Yeah, still feels like forever, Dave muttered, giving Sam a playful shove. As they joked around, my attention drifted to the parking lot. I couldn't help scanning the area, looking for Trevor. He still wasn't here. Has anyone seen Trevor? I called out over the noise. A few guys shook their heads. Brock and Mark just shrugged. He should have been here an hour ago, Steven said, checking his phone. Didn't he text you, Nate? I shook my head. Coach looked over, frowning as he checked his clipboard. Where on earth is Daly? Doesn't anyone around here use their phones? Silence. Well, Coach barked. Someone call him. Tell him to get over here. We're leaving in 20 minutes. I quickly pulled out my phone and dialed Trevor. Twice. 6 times. No answer. Is he picking up? Mitchell asked. I shook my head, a pit forming in my stomach. Trevor was never late. Not once. Dawson. Coach snapped. What's going on? I don't know, Coach. I said helplessly. Before Coach could respond, a few sighs of relief rippled through the group. I turned, and there he was. Trevor was jogging toward us, a large duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Finally, Stephen said with a smirk. What took you so long, man? Trevor stopped in front of us, breathing heavily. Rough morning, he said between breaths. His hair was messy, his eyes tired, dark circles visible even from where I stood. Glad you made it, Daly, Coach muttered, marking his name off. I was about ready to send a search party. Trevor just gave a half smile. Yeah, sorry, Coach. When our eyes met, I wanted to ask him what happened, but the emptiness in his gaze made me stop. Something was off. All right, are we finally ready? Coach yelled. 16 players, 2 coaches, and Marvin, the mascot guy, cheered in response as we started boarding. The bus was loud and chaotic, filled with laughter and the sound of sneakers squeaking on the floor. Hey, I called the window seat. Stephen shouted. Too bad. Marcus laughed. I rolled my eyes, stepping aside as Trevor nudged me from behind. What are you waiting for? He said with a smirk. You gonna sit or what? Yeah, I muttered, sliding into a middle row window seat. Trevor sat beside me, clearly wishing he'd gotten it instead. Next time, I'm taking the window, he whispered near my ear. Sure, I said softly, staring out at the parking lot as the bus door closed. All right, boys. Tim, our assistant coach, and Coach's 22-year-old nephew, called out. Everyone quiet down for attendance. The chatter dimmed except for some low music from the back. Tim went down the list, calling out each name until everyone had answered. Then, with a thumbs up to Coach, he took a seat up front. The bus engine roared to life, and cheers erupted. Philly, here we come, Dave shouted. I smiled to myself. Trevor caught my eye and grinned faintly, but something about him still seemed distant. Hours later, the noise hadn't stopped. Someone had been playing a game on their phone nonstop, and a few guys were getting restless. Coach, I really need a bathroom break. Marcus yelled dramatically. Hang on. We'll stop soon, Coach said, shaking his head. Marcus stood up anyway. You want me to go right here? Sit down, McLaughlin, Owen said, pulling his hoodie over his face. Please. Laughter filled the bus. Marcus eventually sat down, grumbling. Then, over the noise, I heard Trevor's voice. So, how'd it go? I blinked and turned to him. Huh. You know, he said quietly, looking at me now. With Tracy. You broke up with her, right? I exhaled, staring at my hands. Yeah. She hates me. Trevor frowned. What happened? She got upset, I said softly. Said she needed space. Then she walked away. For a while, he didn't respond. The sound of the bus engine filled the silence between us. Then finally he said in a low voice, Then why'd you do it? I looked at him, confused. What do you mean? Trevor's jaw tensed. You look miserable, Nate. Do you regret it? I frowned. No. I just wish I'd handled it better. He sighed and leaned back, shaking his head. Maybe you shouldn't have done it at all. My eyes widened. What? You were the one who told me to. Trevor gave a small, almost bitter laugh. Yeah, well, maybe I was wrong. I stared at him, trying to read what he meant. Did something happen? Is that why you were late this morning? He hesitated before finally saying, Maybe. I'll tell you when we get to the hotel. All right, I said quietly. He leaned his head against the seat, his voice barely a whisper. Nate, I just don't want you to feel like you have to make choices because of me. Yeah, I told you to end things with Tracy, but only if that's what you wanted. Do you? He turned to look at me then, his eyes filled with a mix of sadness and hope. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding as I glanced around the noisy bus, thankful no one was paying attention to us. Nathan's POV. I think so, I murmured, my voice cracking. Closing my eyes, I leaned my head against the window, the cool glass pressing against my cheek. I just feel really stressed out right now. Stressed? Yeah, join the club, Trevor muttered under his breath. I glanced at him, only to find him already looking back at me, frustration written all over his face. Grit. I sighed and shut my eyes again, hoping to drift off to sleep, to escape reality for a little while. Lately, everything has been eating away at me, and I have no idea how to make it stop. All I know is that no matter what I do, I somehow end up hurting people. Especially Trevor. Trevor's POV. I glanced over at Nathan, now asleep beside me, and sighed quietly. His hair fell over his face, messier than usual. Normally, he keeps it perfectly neat, almost obsessively. It's really over between him and Tracy. But honestly, I didn't think he would actually go through with it. I thought he'd come back, say he couldn't do it, and choose her instead. Not me. So, what does this mean now? Does this mean we can finally be together? I wish it were that simple. Nathan isn't sure of himself, not completely, and I can see it. He's been stressed, confused, and maybe even scared. And I need to know if what he feels for me is real. Because there's a difference between love and attraction. Attraction can fool you. It makes you think you want someone, mind and body, but it's not always real love. And that's what scares me most. What if what Nathan feels for me isn't love, but just confusion? I've loved him for so long. And loving someone like him, it hurts. It feels like your chest is being crushed, like nothing else in the world matters except that one person. That one, stubborn, impossible person. I'd do anything for him. Honestly, I would. I've spent years watching him date girls, smile at them, hold their hands, while pretending it didn't bother me. I had to lie to myself every single day. But I can't keep lying anymore. That's why this morning, I told my parents the truth. I told them I'm gay. I thought they deserved to hear it first. I thought, maybe, they'd understand. My mom did. She was calm, kind of emotional, and said she always had a feeling. But my dad, he didn't take it well. He didn't yell. He didn't disown me. He just looked disappointed. And that silence, that look, it hurt more than any words could. It felt like a wall closing in. Like I had just let him down in the worst possible way. That's why I was late this morning. Because for the first time in my life, I felt like a disappointment to my father. He's my hero, my role model, the man I've always wanted to be like. He was the football captain when he was my age. Popular, smart, confident, everything. I joined the team because I wanted to be like him. He used to pat me on the back after every game and say, "Great job, son. You're just like me." But not anymore. Not after today. Now I can't stop thinking, does this change everything between us? Would he still be proud of me if he knew who I have feelings for? If he knew that the reason I'm different is sitting right next to me on this bus? Would he even care about football or the tournament or any of it after knowing that? I looked at Nathan again. He was still sleeping, his head tilted slightly toward me. I wanted to brush the hair from his face, to just reach out. But I didn't. It was too risky. Everything feels too risky now. And as the bus rolled on, I stared out the window and whispered to myself, "What's happening to us?" Chapter 34. Nathan's POV. There was a sharp tap on my cheek. "Nate," a voice sang softly in my ear. Another tap followed. "Nate, wake up." I stirred, trying to ignore whoever it was, hoping to slip back into sleep. Maybe this was still part of my dream. "Nathan Dawson," another voice whispered, tugging my hair lightly. "Come on, wake up." Nate. Nathan. Dawson. Before I could react, I felt a light but unexpected punch to my cheek. My eyes flew open and I found myself staring at Brock, who looked both shocked and guilty. Sorry man," he said awkwardly, rubbing the back of his neck. "I keep forgetting my punches are stronger than I think." "Yeah," I muttered, rubbing my eyes as reality set in. I looked around and saw that half of the team, including Coach, had already left the bus. The only ones still here were David, Brock, Owen, and me. All right, I'm up," I said quickly, sliding out of the seat. "Where is everyone?" "They're checking into the hotel." "Come on, Coach is gonna flip if you're late," Owen said with a grin, giving me a playful nudge as we headed toward the exit. Oh, and don't worry about your stuff, Brock added. Trevor took care of it for you. That made me pause. He did. Even Dave looked a little surprised, and we exchanged glances. What a gentleman, Owen teased, breaking the silence. I shrugged it off, and the four of us walked toward the hotel entrance. The place was stunning, way too fancy for a high school football team. It looked like the kind of hotel where newlyweds might spend their honeymoon. A doorman in a neat uniform greeted us with a polite bow. Dave snickered and stuck out his hand. Hey man, what's up? The elderly man, probably in his 60s and speaking with a slight British accent, smiled warmly and shook Dave's hand. Welcome, boys. I hope you enjoy your stay. Thanks, sir, Brock said, sounding unsure. We walked through the revolving doors. Well, tried to. Brock stood there, hesitating as the doors turned. Brock, I sighed. Just go. I'm not sure about this thing, he said, staring at the door like it was a trap. Dave and Owen were already on the other side laughing hysterically. You've never used a revolving door before? I asked, raising an eyebrow. I pushed the door gently for him, and he finally made it through, red-faced and embarrassed. See? Easy, I said, stepping through after him. Inside, the hotel lobby was massive, with elegant chandeliers, plush furniture, and people who clearly didn't expect to see a bunch of noisy teenagers storming in. Oh, look who finally woke up. Stephen called out when we entered. Everyone else was lounging on the couches. Coach and Tim stood at the front, clipboard in hand. Wait, I asked, are the rooms already assigned? Everyone stared at me like I had two heads. Trevor rolled his eyes. Yeah, Stephen laughed. What, did you wake up in another dimension or something? Never mind, I mumbled. Good, Coach barked. Now that everyone's here, quiet down while I take attendance again. Someone muttered a joke under their breath, and Coach gave them the look. Still, none of us could take him too seriously. He liked to act tough, but we all knew he was just a big softy who could talk about Marvel or DC for hours if given the chance. Once the roll call was done for what felt like the 100th time, Coach handed out room keys. Just like before, Trevor, Dave, Brock, and I were assigned together. Dave was thrilled. He practically bounced like a little kid. Brock grinned but kept his cool. Trevor, though, looked distant. As he twirled the key card in his fingers, I sensed something off. His usual warmth wasn't there. He looked guarded. Was he upset with me? I thought breaking up with Tracy would make things easier between us, but instead he seemed withdrawn. Alright, well, I really need the bathroom, Dave said, patting my shoulder before hurrying off. Keep us posted on how that goes, Tyson called after him, earning a laugh from everyone nearby. Soon, Dave, Tyson, Brock, and a few others ran off looking for the restroom, their voices echoing across the lobby. I sighed. Typical. Trevor stayed quiet behind me, and I could feel the tension between us. So, he finally asked, "You coming or what?" "Yeah," I said, blinking before walking beside him toward the elevators. Mitchell and Greg were already there. "Hey guys," Greg greeted. "What room are you in?" 423, Trevor answered. "Nice. We're in 426, Greg said. "Guess we're neighbors." The elevator doors opened with a soft ding. "Wow," Trevor muttered as we stepped in. "This elevator is nicer than my bedroom." Mitchell laughed. "The whole hotel is too nice. I feel like we're going to break something just by breathing." "Do we get room service?" Greg asked, adjusting his glasses. I nodded. "Yeah, we do." Greg pumped his fist. "Best trip ever." Trevor nudged me. "We're totally ordering chocolate cake later," he said, his eyes lighting up. I smiled. "Chocolate cake?" He closed his eyes dramatically. "Just, please." Greg snickered. "What, craving sweets now?" Trevor chuckled softly. "I just want cake, okay?" We all laughed as the elevator doors opened again, revealing a breathtaking indoor pool area. "Whoa," I whispered. The ceiling sparkled with a giant chandelier, and sunlight streamed through tall windows. There was a water slide, a lounge area, a snack bar, and even a small waterfall. Mitchell's face lit up when he spotted a few lifeguards. "Yup, I'm starting to like this place." "Come on, Nate," Trevor said, walking toward the hall. Coming, I replied, glancing back one last time before catching up to him. Even the carpeted hallway felt too elegant for us. When we stepped into our suite, my jaw nearly dropped. Whoa, I breathed. The room was huge, complete with a plasma TV, plush couches, and a massive window overlooking the city. I bet Dave's going to break something, I joked, picking up a small heart-shaped pillow from the couch. Trevor gave me a look. Heart-shaped? Really? I laughed. Hey, I didn't put it here. He shook his head, smiling faintly. I placed the pillow back and looked out the window, cracking it open to let in a cool breeze. Hey, Trevor called from the other room. Come check this out. I turned around, feeling my chest tighten just a bit. Whatever it was, maybe it was finally time to talk. Feeling a bit uneasy, I hesitantly left the window and walked over to where Trevor was standing, right in front of one of the bedrooms. I smirked, curious, and peeked inside, only for the smile to vanish almost instantly. The room looked like something straight out of a honeymoon advertisement. No way, I murmured, stepping further in. In the middle of the room stood a massive white king-sized bed. Everything, from the sheets to the pillows, was perfectly white, except for the rose petals scattered across the duvet and the red candles placed around the room. I turned toward Trevor, who avoided meeting my eyes. You didn't do this, did you? I asked, raising an eyebrow. He rolled his eyes. You're kidding, right? Okay, so clearly not his doing. The situation was so awkward I didn't know whether to laugh or just hide under the bed. Of all the rooms in this entire hotel, why did we have to get this one? Trying to break the tension, I gave a half-hearted laugh. Well, if you think about it, it's kind of funny. Trevor didn't even crack a smile. I sighed and walked over to the bed. Picking up one of the petals, I turned it between my fingers, feeling its soft texture. I could feel Trevor's eyes on me. At least it smells nice in here, I said, bringing it close to my face with a faint grin. Trevor exhaled sharply. Just throw them out, he said flatly, then walked out of the room without another word. I stood there, stunned, staring at the heart-shaped pattern the petals made on the bed. Why was he acting like this? Maybe it was just a coincidence we got a room like this. Or maybe the last guests were a couple and someone forgot to clean it properly. Either way, it didn't matter how we ended up here. What mattered was that Trevor was clearly upset. Was everything between us falling apart again? I thought I'd done what he wanted me to do. My jaw tightened. Frustration boiled up in my chest as I kicked at the edge of the bed and grabbed the duvet, scattering the petals across the floor. Are you happy now? I muttered under my breath, eyes closed, feeling the rush of anger pounding in my veins. Maybe Trevor should have just kept his secret to himself. Chapter 35. Trevor's POV. I don't even know why I stormed off like that. Closing my eyes, I let the warm water run over me, easing the tension in my shoulders. The heat felt good against my skin, but my thoughts were anything but calm. I know I haven't been fair to Nathan. I'm acting out and I can admit that. It's just, everything feels so confusing. Yeah, sure, Nate broke up with Tracy just like I wanted him to. But for some reason it doesn't feel right. Nothing feels right. Now, on top of everything happening between us, I've got my family to worry about. My dad can't even look at me the same way since he found out I'm gay. What about my mom? How are they supposed to deal with it? I feel like I'm trapped. Like no matter what I do, I'm going to be the reason everything falls apart. The stress is eating me alive. Nobody really gets how heavy this feels, how much it hurts to keep pretending everything's fine when it isn't. And now, with the big tournament tomorrow night, I can't even think straight. When I saw those rose petals on the bed earlier, it was like everything inside me just snapped. It was too much. The room, the awkwardness, the thought of what people might think if they saw us in there. It wasn't funny, it was embarrassing. And when Nate looked at me like I was the one who set it up, I couldn't handle it. Forget it, I muttered, hitting my fists lightly against the shower wall. Just forget it. It feels like everything's slipping away. Our friendship, my family, even the little bit of peace I had left. And then the thought hits me, what if Nate's just confused? What if I'm just some phase he'll move past? Would he even fight for me if it came to that? The water kept running, but I couldn't move. My hands were trembling as the tears mixed with the water on my face. This isn't me. I've never been like this, so scared, so lost. I leaned my forehead against the cool tiles, letting the tears fall freely this time. I wasn't strong enough to hide it anymore. Nathan's POV. You know, David said through a mouthful of cookie, this dessert buffet is amazing. I can't believe this hotel has a dessert bar, I laughed, taking a bite of chocolate fudge ice cream. This is heaven. Owen nodded in agreement, already on his way to the chocolate fountain. Half the team was crowded around the buffet, laughing, joking, and definitely annoying every adult in the room. Where's Trevor? Brock asked, glancing around. He's been quiet since we got here. He's not feeling great, I said, stirring my ice cream. Probably nervous about tomorrow. Dave snorted. Trevor? Nervous about a game? Yeah. Go get him, Nate. Guys, come on. Go. Rolling my eyes, I handed my bowl to Dave. You guys are the worst. As I walked toward the elevator, Owen called out, You're just being dramatic. I ignored him. Truthfully, I knew this talk with Trevor was long overdue. Things between us were getting worse by the day, and I couldn't let that continue. When the elevator doors opened, a blonde girl about my age was already inside. She was wearing a pink swimsuit, wrapped in a towel, and smiled as I stepped in. Hey, she said, tilting her head slightly. Hey, I replied, pressing the button for my floor. I'm Emily, she said, her tone playful. Heading to the pool? I shook my head. No, just going back to my room. I'm Nathan. She smiled wider, clearly sizing me up. You're really cute. You kind of look like Dylan O'Brien. I chuckled awkwardly. Yeah, I've heard that before. Your girlfriend must be really lucky, she teased. Actually, I don't have one, I said before thinking, and instantly regretted it. Her eyes lit up. Oh really? That's surprising. Maybe we could. Thankfully, the elevator doors opened. Sorry, nice meeting you, gotta go. I blurted out, quickly stepping out before she could finish. I rushed down the hall, spotting Mitchell and Mark chatting outside their room. Nate, Mark called. What's up? Have you guys seen Trevor? I asked. Yeah, Mitchell said, nodding toward our suite. He went in a while ago. Thanks, I said, already walking away. Mark called after me, You coming to the pool later? I shook my head quickly, remembering the awkward elevator ride. They both gave me weird looks as I disappeared into our room. The suite was quiet, too quiet. Everything looked untouched, like no one had moved since earlier. Trevor! I called softly. No answer. Trevor! I said louder, checking the couch. Nothing. My eyes landed on the bedroom door and I sighed. Please don't be asleep on me, man, I muttered, turning the knob. Inside, Trevor was lying on the bed, sound asleep. The rose petals were gone, probably tossed out. I walked over quietly, feeling a sting of guilt hit me. He looked peaceful, his hair still damp from a shower. On the nightstand sat a small bottle of painkillers. I gently placed my hand on his forehead to check if he had a fever. Nothing. Just warmth. Sighing, I brushed the hair out of his eyes. For a moment, I just stood there, staring. This wasn't the same Trevor who used to joke around or drag me into ridiculous arguments. This Trevor looked tired, worn out. And it hit me, this was my fault. I'm sorry, I whispered. You deserve better. Why is your hand on my face? I froze. Trevor's eyes were open, staring right at me. Oh, I was just checking if you had a fever, I stammered. He rubbed his eyes, still half asleep. Okay? You okay? I asked softly. Everyone's kind of worried about you. Trevor sat up a little, stretching. I'm fine. Just tired. Well, you should come downstairs. The dessert buffet's open, I offered with a smile. He shook his head. I'm not really in the mood for that right now. What are you in the mood for, then? Hiding out in here all day. He shot me a look. We just got here, Nate. I'm tired. What do you want from me? I want you to talk to me, I said, the frustration slipping out. You walked out earlier without a word. Why do you think? He said quietly. You're supposed to be the smart one. I sighed. Honestly, Trevor, I don't think I'm that smart. I once tried drinking soda with a straw and accidentally shoved it up my nose. Trevor let out a short laugh. That sounds like something I'd do. Maybe we've switched personalities, I said, smiling weakly. He looked at me seriously. Are you normally this emotional? Because that's all I've been lately. Trevor, I started. Nate, he interrupted, sitting up straighter. Can you just be honest with me for once? I nodded slowly. Are you into me? He asked quietly. Or is all of this just a waste of time? Did you know that I told my parents? My jaw dropped. I stared at my best friend in disbelief. You told your parents that you're gay? Trevor nodded, rolling his eyes slightly. Yeah. Before we left for the trip. Well, what happened? What did they say? I asked, searching his face for any sign of relief or regret. He sighed, raising an eyebrow. My mom's fine with it. She doesn't really care much. I mean, she still has my brother. He's straight, he can get married and have kids. That's how she looks at it. He paused. My dad, though, not so much. Let's just say he's not thrilled. I blinked, unsure what to say. Wow, that's tough. Yeah, Trevor said quietly. Now they're fighting because of me. So if you could just be honest with me, really honest, that would mean a lot. I just want to stop feeling like I'm ruining everything. Trevor, I hesitated, my voice softer now. I don't even know what to say. He cut me off. Are you serious right now, Nate? Why are you doing this? I don't know, okay? I said, running a hand through my hair. I know there's something between us. I know that I do feel something for you, but I'm confused. I've never felt like this before, and I don't know how to handle it. I'm scared, Trev. You think this is easy for me? Trevor stared at me, his voice rising with frustration. What's so hard about liking someone? When that someone is your best friend, and has been for most of your life? I answered, my voice breaking slightly. Yeah, that's hard. He blinked, caught off guard. I noticed he didn't react to the fact that we were both guys. Maybe that didn't even matter anymore. What mattered was that I didn't want to lose him. Trevor sighed and gave me a small, crooked smile. Well, Nate, you'll always be my best bud. You know that. Then, with his usual honesty, he added quietly, I just really want to hold you. And kiss you. That's all. I couldn't help but laugh softly. Wow, that was almost romantic, Trev. He chuckled, shaking his head. Taking a deep breath, I said, I do like you more than I should. But I don't want to rush into something I'm not ready for. I want to be sure before I jump into all of this. You're really important to me, and I don't want to mess it up. Trevor looked away, and I noticed the faintest blush coloring his cheeks. Feeling suddenly bold, I reached for his hand and made him look at me again. When his eyes met mine, something in me just moved. Before I could stop myself, I leaned in and kissed him. It was soft at first, hesitant, unsure, but full of all the words I couldn't say out loud. The kind of kiss that felt like a question and an answer at the same time. He froze for a second, then slowly kissed me back. His hand found mine, holding on tightly, as if afraid that letting go would make it all disappear. Just when the moment felt like it might last forever. Knock knock. Yo, Nate, Trevor. You guys in there? We pulled apart instantly. Trevor groaned. I'm going to lose my mind, he muttered, running a hand through his hair. Dave, what do you want? From the other side of the door came his teasing voice. Coach wants to talk to you guys. Stop hiding and come out. Trevor and I froze, our eyes widening. Wait, what did he just say? I whispered. But before panic could set in, we heard Dave's muffled laughter. I'm kidding. You guys are way too easy to mess with. Trevor and I exhaled at the same time, both half annoyed and half relieved. We climbed off the bed, trying to act normal. Nate, Trevor said, trying not to laugh. You might want to fix yourself. I glanced down and immediately grabbed the nearest pillow to hide my embarrassment. Oh no! Trevor burst out laughing as he headed for the door. I swear, I'm getting Dave back for this. I could only shake my head and smile. Typical Trevor Daly, always finding a way to make everything complicated, and somehow, I didn't mind one bit. Chapter 36. Trevor's POV. Dude, Owen nudged my arm, his eyes locked on a group of girls sitting near the pool. Check them out. I blinked and nodded absently. 3 girls around our age sat together, chatting and laughing in bright swimsuits. 2 were brunettes and 1 was blonde. All of them looked confident and carefree. Sure, I noticed them. I might be into guys, but I could still appreciate beauty when I saw it. The only thing that bothered me, though, was the blonde's hair. It looked like she hadn't touched up her roots in ages. Not that it mattered, but still. Trevor! Owen nudged me again, snapping me out of my thoughts. Did you even hear me? Huh? I asked, blinking at him. He rolled his eyes. Let's go say hi. Of course. Classic Owen. See, Owen is your typical flirt. Actually, most of the guys on our football team are. Not to stereotype, but it's true. I may be openly gay, but even I get called a flirt by half the girls at school. Owen, though, he's in a league of his own. He's the kind of guy who would message a girl with some ridiculous pickup line and still think it's clever. I prefer actual conversation. Compliment, smile, maybe get a number if the vibe's right. It's not hard when you're charming. At least, that's what people tell me. I smirked at myself. All right, Trevor. Calm down, I muttered. You go ahead, I told Owen. Let's see if you can get all 3 numbers. He shook his head immediately. No way. I just want to talk to the blonde. Her roots are awful, I said before realizing he probably didn't even know what I meant. Owen gave me a confused look. Roots? Never mind, I sighed. Just follow my lead, all right? I got up and walked toward the girls. They noticed me almost immediately. I was still in my swim trunks, water dripping from my hair. Their gazes followed me as I approached, and suddenly I felt a little self-conscious. Hey, I said casually. You 3 look like you'd enjoy hanging out with a few loud football players. Am I right? The blonde removed her sunglasses, raising an eyebrow. Are you referring to yourself? Not really, I said with a grin. I mean, I am loud and I'm a football player, captain actually, but I wasn't talking about me. I slung my arm around Owen's shoulders. This here is my buddy, Owen. He's shy when it comes to girls. But he told me he thinks you're the most amazing girl he's ever seen. Right, Owen? Owen nodded quickly, blushing a little. The blonde smiled faintly. Really? He also said you have great hair, I added playfully. Natural, right? She flipped her hair proudly. Of course. I bit back a laugh. Well, my job here is done. I'll leave you 2 to talk. Wait, one of the brunettes said, smiling at me. I'm Megan. I started to reply, but something caught my eye. Across the pool, I saw Nathan walking with Dave and Brock, deep in conversation. My heart did that weird little thing again. I'm Trevor, I finished, flashing Megan a small grin. Owen and the blonde were already chatting, and she was sitting on his lap before long. I turned my gaze back to Nathan, who was looking right at me. His eyebrow lifted, almost like he was questioning what I was doing. I smiled faintly and looked back at Megan. I'd ask for your number, I said lightly, but I don't have my phone on me right now. That was a lame excuse, but I didn't really care. I walked away, leaving Owen to enjoy his moment. Trevor! I barely turned when Dave's voice boomed across the pool. It's Trevor, he yelled, loud enough for everyone to stare. I groaned. Dave, seriously? Trevor, he called again. Come here, bestie. I laughed. You want me that bad, huh? Always, he shouted dramatically. Come give me a hug. I rolled my eyes but decided to play along. Pretending to run in slow motion, I jogged into his open arms while imaginary romantic music played in my head. Dave hugged me tight. Have you been working out? He said into my ear, still way too loud. You can stop yelling anytime, Brock groaned nearby. Just tone it down. Dave gasped and pointed at him. You need to relax. You're like my grandpa. Nathan snorted a laugh. That's harsh, Dave. I'm gonna ignore that, Brock said, shaking his head. All right, I said, clapping my hands together. I don't even know what's happening anymore, But when are we heading to dinner? Brock blinked. Dinner? Dave groaned. The pre-game dinner? Genius. Coach told us about it hours ago. Oh, right, Brock muttered. Unbelievable, Dave mumbled. Don't start, Brock said, sighing. Fine, but I'm not sitting next to you tonight, Dave said. Sit with your new buddy, Mitchell. I don't even like Mitchell, Brock muttered. At all. Same, Dave agreed. Does anyone even like that guy? I do, Nathan said suddenly, raising his hand. Of course you do, I teased, grabbing his arm. Come on, let's go before we're late. The others followed us toward the room, still joking and arguing. Something told me tonight was going to be interesting. Nathan's POV. Trevor was in the shower, Dave was lounging on the couch with a towel around his waist, watching TV, and Brock was sitting at the table, eating cake like it was the best thing in the world. So much for getting ready, I muttered. Brock shrugged, mouth full. We don't have to dress up, right? I didn't bring anything nice. I brought one dress shirt, Dave said, not looking away from the screen. Who dresses fancy just to eat? That's what I'm saying, I said, resting my chin on my hand as I watched Brock take another huge bite. Are you guys nervous about tomorrow? I asked quietly. Because I kind of am. Brock nodded. Totally. I'm stressed. Dave waved him off. We've played big games before. It's fine. Not like this one, Brock said. This one's going to be on TV. My eyes widened. Wait, what? Yeah, Coach told us, Brock replied. I sank back into my chair. Oh, perfect, I muttered. The shower shut off, and a few moments later Trevor walked out, towel around his waist and another around his hair. What's going on? He asked, leaning on the doorway. Just talking about the game, Brock said. It's going to be televised, right? Trevor nodded. Yeah. You didn't know that? Apparently not, I said. Well, that's just great. Dave grinned. Come on, this is awesome. We're going to be on TV. I wasn't so sure. Every big tournament we'd played seemed to come with drama. Someone getting injured, kicked out, or worse. Hopefully this one would be different. It's all good, Dave said confidently. Brock narrowed his eyes. Did you just say, it's all Gucci? Trevor smirked. Because it is Gucci. Dave laughed. Gucci. Gucci, Trevor echoed. Soon, they were both chanting it back and forth, Gucci. Gucci. Until they burst into laughter. I couldn't help but smile, even as Brock rolled his eyes. Gucci, I whispered, grinning. Brock sighed. You're all ridiculous. Gucci, Trevor said with a grin. Super Gucci, Dave replied enthusiastically. Let's go eat some Gucci food. Dave cheered, high-fiving Trevor. With that, the four of us grabbed our things, mainly our phones, and left the room. Trevor locked the door behind us with the only room key we had. Why anyone thought it was a good idea to give 4 teenage guys just one key is still a mystery to me. The bus driver took us to a really fancy place called Chrysler Hall. If I had to describe it in one word, it would be chandeliers. They were everywhere. The ceiling sparkled with crystal lights, and it was the first thing that caught my attention. Dave leaned close and whisper-sang with a grin, I'm gonna swing from the chandelier. I rolled my eyes but couldn't help smiling. Our entire football team was huge, so we had to split up across several buses. Luckily, all the guys I was close with were on mine. But walking as a group of teenage football players into a classy, chandelier-filled banquet hall felt a little strange. The large room inside had rows of circular tables, each perfectly arranged with plates, silverware, and tall flower vases as centerpieces. Everything looked elegant and spotless. I immediately felt underdressed in my black jeans and dark blue shirt. Thankfully, looking around, I realized most of the guys didn't follow Coach's dress nicely suggestion either. So that was one less thing to worry about. All right, boys, grab a seat anywhere, Coach said. Coach, what are we eating? Owen asked. Coach blinked at him. I have no idea. Just go sit. A few of us laughed as we picked a random table. This was way too fancy for me. I didn't belong in places with chandeliers. I sat with Trevor, Dave, Brock, Owen, Marcus, Mitchell, Sam, and Greg. The lighting was soft, dim enough to give everything a warm glow. Trevor was sitting next to me, focused on his phone, texting someone. I couldn't help but wonder who. The hall was filled with chatter and laughter. The sound of clinking glasses and forks scraping plates filled the air. The dinner was surprisingly good, pasta with chicken in a creamy sauce. Between bites, Trevor leaned closer and whispered, "I'm thinking about telling them." I blinked. Telling them? Tonight? He nodded. Trevor, I hesitated, lowering my voice. I get it, but tonight? I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe wait until after the game? He frowned slightly and looked around at everyone. I have my reasons for doing it now. I'll explain later. Before I could stop him, he stood up. My heart nearly stopped. Trevor, I hissed, panicked. Not now. He ignored me and whistled loudly, getting everyone's attention, including Coach's. Trevor, I whispered urgently. Please don't. But he had already made up his mind. I have an announcement I'd like to make, Trevor said, loud and clear. If everyone could just listen for a minute. The room quieted down. Forks hit plates. Conversations stopped. Dave and I exchanged a look, both unsure of what he was doing. This is something I've been wanting to share for a long time, Trevor continued, his voice steady but nervous. I don't really know why I'm saying it now here, but I feel like this is the right time. Everyone's here, Coach, the team, so maybe this is good, or maybe it's not. He gave a small, nervous laugh. Either way, I need to say it. He paused, scanning the room. Before I do, I just want you all to know, I don't want this to change how you see me. Football is everything to me. It's my home. I don't want this to mess that up. You're my teammates, but more than that, you're my family. And I trust my family. Coach nodded slowly, his expression unreadable but calm. Trevor took a deep breath. I'm gay. The room went completely silent. You could hear the sound of someone's fork hitting their plate. My heart was pounding. Trevor stood tall. I'm gay, he repeated softly. That's all. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Coach smirked. I had a feeling, he said casually. I let out the breath I'd been holding and nearly laughed in relief. Well, Mitchell said, breaking the silence. I didn't. You're serious? Yeah, Trevor said simply. Mitchell didn't look angry, just surprised. Most of the guys were just quiet, processing. No one seemed upset, except maybe Owen. He was staring at the table, not saying a word. Dave shrugged. So you're gay? All right. That's cool. Now can we go back to eating this amazing food? Trevor blinked, almost laughing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Dave smiled. Good for you, man. Proud of you. We all are, I said softly, resting my hand on his arm. Greg chuckled. Honestly, I kinda guessed. You're too well-groomed to be straight. Dude, what does that even mean? Brock groaned, laughing. I don't know, Greg said, shrugging. He's just too good-looking. The table burst into laughter, and for a moment, the tension broke. Owen finally muttered something under his breath, but Trevor only smiled faintly and turned his attention back to his plate. Well, Trevor said quietly to me, that went a lot smoother than I expected. Maybe because they already knew, Dave said, cutting his chicken. I mean, thinking about it, you never stayed with one girl for more than a month, and you take longer to get ready than anyone else I know. Trevor laughed. Hey, there's nothing wrong with a guy taking care of himself. Dave chuckled. Fair enough. As laughter filled the table again, I couldn't stop watching Trevor. He looked relieved, lighter somehow. I couldn't believe what had just happened. He'd actually told the entire football team. Just like that. Out of nowhere. And yet, the world didn't fall apart. Not everyone was thrilled. Owen and a couple of the younger players still looked uncomfortable, but most of the team was accepting. Even Coach. It was kind of amazing. I looked down at my lap, my chest tight. What about me? Could I ever do the same? Probably not. It's one thing for the team captain to come out as gay. But what about both the captain and the star quarterback? Would things change? Would it affect how everyone saw us? Probably. Tomorrow was our biggest game yet, and I couldn't let anything get in the way, not even my own feelings. No distractions. No emotions. No complications. Not even Trevor. Chapter 37. Trevor's POV. How's everything going? Mom asked. I was on the phone with her, sitting alone in the quiet room. It was 5:30 in the morning, the day of the big game. I'd been awake for hours. I just couldn't sleep. Nathan, Brock, and Dave were still sound asleep, lucky as ever. I sat on the couch, staring out the window at the faint light of dawn. Normally, I wouldn't call my mom while away on a trip, especially not this early. But when I woke up drenched in sweat, heart pounding, I suddenly thought, maybe I should talk to Mom. I shrugged, even though she couldn't see me. I'm all right. All right, she repeated, sounding suspicious. Our game's today, I said. But Mom, I think I might be sick to my stomach. She chuckled softly, probably trying not to wake Dad. See? You always get mad when I pack too much medicine for you. Check the blue bag in your suitcase, you'll find what you need. Pepto-Bismol should help. Okay, Mom, I rolled my eyes lightly, though I smiled. But why are you acting so normal? She paused. I could picture her sitting at the kitchen table, wearing her reading glasses. What do you mean, Trevor? Didn't Dad tell you to stay away from me or something? That I'm different? Like what he used to call Jerry. Jerry was a guy who used to live down our street. Openly gay, a kind and cheerful guy who worked as an interior designer. My dad couldn't stand him. Whenever I asked why, his answer was always the same, mean, dismissive, and cruel. Mom sighed. Honey, don't worry about your father. What do you mean, don't worry? I interrupted, keeping my voice low. I sat up, running a hand through my messy hair. Mom, he hates it. You know he does. He probably hates me. Don't lie about it. He controls everything at home, always has. I've spent my whole life being his little copy, his version of perfect. Trevor, she said softly, you don't have to. And now he knows, I said, my voice trembling. He knows I'm not what he wanted. That I'm gay. I took a shaky breath. You know, I told everyone last night. The whole team. I just said it out loud. And you know what? Nobody cared. Coach looked like he'd already known all along. I wish I could have just stayed quiet, but I couldn't anymore. I'm so stressed out. I don't even know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know how I'm supposed to go home and face him. Trevor, she said again, gentle and patient. When we get back, I swallowed hard. I'm quitting the team. There was silence on the line. The only sound I could hear was Dave's faint snoring from the other room. I closed my eyes, bracing for her response. You want to quit the team? She finally said, slowly. I could picture her rubbing her temples like she always did when she was worried. Her son, the football captain, was quitting, and he had just come out to her. I feel lost, Mom. Football used to be everything, but now, I don't know if it's what I want anymore. I don't know what I want. I looked toward the closed door of my room, where Nathan was still asleep. But I do know one thing. I can't keep living for everyone else. I need to find out who I am. What I want. I just need a break. My voice cracked slightly. Do you hate me now too? Mom laughed softly. Oh, Trevor. I could never hate my son. Don't say things like that. And your father doesn't hate you either. I gave a short sigh. Yeah, sure. Then added, half jokingly, can you do me a favor? Of course, she said warmly. Tell him to calm down. Please. Mom laughed again, the sound soft and reassuring. I'll do my best. And Trevor, whatever you decide to do with your life, whatever path feels right for you, I'll be by your side, always. Even if your dad takes time to come around. Yeah, I said quietly, staring at the wall. Thanks, Ma. I've got to go now. Bye. Love you, honey, she said before hanging up. I set my phone down on the table and sighed. Her words replayed in my head, even if he isn't. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. I knew my dad wouldn't take it well. The part of me was scared, terrified, even of what would happen when I got home. He could yell, take things away, or worse, but nothing would hurt more than him pretending I didn't exist. That's what I feared most. I'd told the team the truth about myself because I wanted to stop hiding. But I hadn't told anyone, Not even Nathan, that I was planning to quit. Not yet. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. High school's almost over. Graduation's around the corner. I've spent all these years living a lie, playing a role people expected from me. The captain. The golden boy. And yeah, I do love football. I remember being a freshman, nervous at tryouts, my helmet almost too big for my head. Nathan and I would walk home after practice, tired but excited. It used to be fun, pure fun. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about joy. It became about expectations. About fitting an image. About pretending. And I can't let that define me anymore. Not now. Not ever again. Nathan's POV. Wake up, people. Game day. A loud blast from a horn jolted me out of bed. I sat up fast, glaring at Dave, who stood there grinning like a maniac, holding a blow horn while wearing nothing but SpongeBob boxers. "You're unbelievable," I groaned, rubbing my eyes. "And seriously, go put some clothes on." "Dude," Dave said, grinning, "do you even know what time it is? Coach wants us in the lobby by 8. "What time is it?" I muttered, searching for my phone. 7:10. "No, wait, 7:11, he said with a smirk. "Great," I said flatly. Then he blew the horn again. "Dave!" I shouted, tossing a pillow at him. "Go annoy someone else." He laughed all the way out the door, probably heading to wake Brock next. I sat there for a moment, heart racing, hands shaking slightly. The nerves were bad this morning. I didn't know why. I'd played dozens of games before, but this one felt different. Maybe because scouts were coming. Maybe because it would be on TV. Whatever the reason, the pressure felt heavier than ever. After Trevor's unexpected confession last night, things had been a bit tense. Not terrible, but awkward. Mostly from Owen and Mitchell. The rest of us didn't care. Trevor was still our captain, but those two always had something to say. I sighed, took a quick shower, and stepped into the living room where Trevor and Brock were watching the Weather Channel. The forecast didn't look good. "Seriously?" Brock muttered. "Rain again? Think they'll cancel?" Trevor shook his head. "No way. Coach wouldn't cancel even if there was a storm. He'll have us playing through anything." He wasn't wrong. We'd practiced through downpours before. Coach was relentless. Rain, wind, what, didn't matter. I opened my phone to distract myself and noticed Tracy had just posted a photo. I frowned. It was an old one. From New Year's Eve. Her and Karen, both clearly having a good time. Tracy sat on Karen's lap, laughing, kissing her cheek. The caption read, "Love of my life." I stared at it for a moment, then locked my phone. "Really, Tracy?" I muttered under my breath. "Unbelievable." "Yo," Brock laughed suddenly. "I remember that." I rolled my eyes. "Yeah. Karen's the new love of her life, apparently." "Ah," Brock teased, leaning on my shoulder with a dramatic pout. "Nady Poo, are you jealous? Missing Tracy already?" "I bet he is," Trevor said with a small smirk. "But don't worry, Karen's keeping her busy." I frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," Trevor said casually, eyes turning back to the TV. But the grin tugging at his lips made me uneasy. "Trevor," I pressed, "what are you talking about? Do you know something I don't?" He looked at me, amused. "Oh, Nate, since when do you care what Tracy's up to? You guys broke up, remember?" Brock awkwardly cleared his throat, clearly sensing the tension. Trevor and I just stared at each other. His tone rubbed me the wrong way, teasing but sharp, like he was trying to get a reaction out of me. "I'm just saying," Trevor continued quietly, "it's not as serious as you think." "What's not?" I asked, confused. "Tracy," he said simply with a shrug. But the way he said it, too casual, too knowing, made me suspicious. Trevor always did this. He'd start something and then refuse to explain, letting me overthink it. "I don't get you," I muttered. "Tracy and I aren't even together anymore." "Karen's obviously gay," Trevor said suddenly. I blinked. "Okay, and?" He smirked. "You know what they say, every girl's a little bit into girls." Brock raised a brow. "People actually say that?" "Yup," Trevor grinned. "And I know. You know how I just came out? I've got a good sense for these things, it's like a gift. Before I could reply, Dave's voice echoed from the bathroom. What are you guys even talking about? Karen, Trevor answered. Tracy's best friend, her partner in crime, her wifey. Totally into girls. I rolled my eyes. What makes you think that? And what does it even matter? Trevor just smiled faintly. Forget I said anything. Anyway, it's 7:45, we should head out soon. Yeah, Brock agreed, standing. Dave, let's go. I'm doing my hair. Dave yelled back. Typical Dave. Always dramatic. Sometimes I wondered about him too. He had this balance of confidence and softness that made him hard to read. But then again, people are never as simple as they seem. And now, according to Trevor, Karen was supposedly gay because of one Instagram post. I sighed. What's next? Tracy too? Whatever, I said finally, grabbing my bag. Same, Brock replied, heading for the door. Dave rushed out right after him, his bag slung over his shoulder. The door shut behind them, leaving me alone with Trevor. He stood there, arms crossed, staring at the door. Okay, I said, stepping toward him. What was that about? He raised an eyebrow. What was what? Don't play dumb, I said sharply. You just started this whole thing about Karen being gay, and then dragged Tracy into it. Why are you being like this? I shoved him lightly, frustration boiling over. I'd been holding too much in, about the game, the pressure, the uncertainty, and now everything was spilling out. Nathan, Trevor said softly, with that half smile that always made me more irritated. Are you sure you're really over Tracy? Because it doesn't seem like it. You got pretty worked up over one photo. My jaw clenched. What are you even trying to say? He tilted his head. Just that it's funny how fast people move on. Remember when Tracy used to call you the love of her life? Guess Karen has that title now. Trevor, what's your deal? I snapped. Tracy can do whatever she wants. I don't care. But even as I said it, I knew he saw right through me. He smirked knowingly. You still care. I exhaled sharply, trying to calm down. I was with her for years. Of course she meant something to me. But that doesn't mean I still want her. Don't twist this. Trevor stepped closer. It's kind of funny, he murmured, almost to himself. People say they're done, but somehow, they never really are. Trevor, I said again, my patience slipping. You're being ridiculous. Why are you acting like this? We were fine before. You're picking fights for no reason. He raised an eyebrow. You think I'm the one starting it? Yes. I said, my voice rising. You keep testing me, trying to see how far I'll go. You get mad at me for the smallest things. I'm trying, all right? This, I gestured between us, is new for me. I'm figuring it out and I need time. You've known who you are for years. I'm still learning. My voice broke slightly as I went on. I just ended a relationship with someone I thought I'd spend my life with. Everything's changing, and I feel lost, Trevor. I don't know who I am anymore. I want you, but you make it so hard sometimes. We used to just get each other, and now it feels like we're always fighting. You have to trust me. I realized I was practically shouting. My fists were clenched, my chest tight. Trevor just stood there, calm as ever, watching me. Then he said, okay. That single word hit me like a wall. Did you just, okay me? I asked in disbelief. He lifted an eyebrow. You did not just, okay me, I said, shaking my head. I just opened up to you, and that's all you've got to say? Trevor's face was unreadable, but I noticed his cheeks were slightly flushed. For some reason, that softened me, just a little. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. What am I supposed to do with you? He glanced down, smirking faintly. You could forgive me, he said quietly. What? I blinked. Nothing, he said quickly, though the corner of his mouth twitched like he was holding back a laugh. He stepped closer, his tone softening. We still have a few minutes before we go. I'm sorry, all right? You're right. I was out of line. I wanted to stay mad, but as he stood in front of me, eyes warm, voice low, it was hard to hold onto the anger. For a moment, everything felt still. I took a step back and forced a small smile. Come on. We should go before coach comes looking for us. Trevor smiled, the tension in his face easing. Yeah, I said, heading for the door. But as I reached for the handle, I could feel his gaze on me, that quiet, unreadable look that said he wasn't done yet. Just stop that, I said, grimacing at him, my eyes unintentionally drifting toward his chest. Stop what? What am I doing? Trevor asked as he walked toward me. I instinctively backed away, but the more I stepped back, the closer he came. One more step and, crash, I bumped into a shelf, knocking a few things onto the floor. Of course there was a shelf there. Perfect timing. Trevor, chill, I said quickly as he stopped right in front of me. He laughed quietly, placing his hands on the wall beside my head, effectively trapping me there. Let me think, he said in a low voice, his face just inches from mine. I don't think I can. I felt my heartbeat speed up, my whole body tense. Trevor seemed to enjoy this, seeing me flustered, testing how far he could push me. You're impossible, I muttered. I really can't stand you. Move. Trevor just smiled, clearly entertained. No. Are you serious right now? I said in disbelief. This isn't funny. I'm not in the mood. I looked away, trying to calm my face, which was heating up fast. This was definitely not the time for any of this. Even if part of me wanted to give in, I couldn't. Not like this. Not when everything between us was so confusing. Trevor's gaze trailed over me, and when his eyes met mine again, they were filled with amusement, as if my frustration was the most entertaining thing he'd seen all day. Then, without warning, he leaned closer and brushed his lips lightly against mine. For a second, I froze. My breath caught as the world seemed to stop around us. But just as quickly as it started, he pulled away. Never mind, he said quietly, turning around and walking off. I stood there, stunned. Was he serious? Unbelievable, I muttered under my breath, running a hand through my hair. I glanced at the clock, and my heart nearly stopped. 8:05. Coach was going to lose it. You're such a jerk, I whispered, grabbing my bag and hurrying out the door. Trevor's POV. Holy wow. That was all I could think as I stood on the field, staring at the massive stadium spread out before me. The others were still in the locker room getting ready, but I was out here with Coach because a reporter wanted to interview me before the game. The seats were filling fast, rows and rows of people, most wearing red, and I couldn't help smiling. It was surreal. Standing here, feeling the buzz of the crowd, the flashing cameras, the hum of energy in the air, it was like getting a glimpse of a dream. A dream I wasn't even sure I wanted anymore. I frowned slightly and turned away so Coach wouldn't notice. The noise of hundreds of conversations filled the stadium, and a knot of anxiety twisted in my stomach. Trevor Daley, right? I turned and saw a young woman smiling at me. She looked like she was in her late 20s, with short dark hair and reading glasses perched on her head. In her hands were a clipboard and a small voice recorder. Please. Hi, I said, shaking her hand and forcing a polite smile. Hi, Trevor. I'm Naomi Lewis. You might have heard of me. I write for the Sports Review. Your coach said you'd be okay with a short interview before the game. I'm working on an article about how high school sports affect student athletes, both the pressure and the passion that come with it. Mind if I ask you a few questions? Naomi Lewis. I'd heard of her. She was known for being sharp and brutally honest, someone who didn't sugarcoat anything. I couldn't figure out why a journalist like her would care about high school football, but I nodded. Sure, I said. Great, she replied, clicking on the recorder. Don't worry, just be honest and speak naturally. I'm interested in what it's really like to be a team captain, what you deal with, what drives you, how you see your future in sports. I nodded, holding my helmet close. So, she began, how does it feel to be captain of this team? I took a second to think. It feels amazing, I said. Honestly, it's an honor. Knowing Coach trusts me with this kind of responsibility, it means a lot. I'm really grateful for it. Naomi smiled, nodding. When did you decide to play football? She asked next, her voice barely rising above the growing buzz of the crowd. I started playing when I was 14, I said. Back in 9th grade. I messed around with it as a kid, but it wasn't serious until then. She grinned, gesturing for me to relax. "Don't worry, you're doing great," she said. Then her tone grew more curious. "Tell me, how hard is it to balance football with the rest of your life? Is it tough? You travel a lot, your school's competitive, and I hear there are scouts here tonight. Do you ever think about going pro?" The crowd's noise was deafening now, but I caught every word. "It's hard," I admitted. "Balancing school and football can really mess with your head sometimes. People think we're just a bunch of jocks, but the truth is, our teachers expect even more from us because we're athletes. We have to keep our grades up, stay disciplined, and deal with all the pressure from parents, coaches, and everyone else watching. It's a lot." I paused. As for the future, I'm not sure anymore. Football used to be my only plan. Now I'm just trying to figure out what's next. Yeah, there are scouts here, and that's exciting, but it's also terrifying. I smiled faintly. Still, I'm not the only one worth watching. Nathan Dawson, he's an incredible player. They're going to love him for sure. Naomi raised an eyebrow. "Nate Dawson? You two are close, right?" I nodded, a small smile tugging at my lips. "Yeah. He's my best friend," I said honestly. "And one of the best players I've ever seen." Naomi laughed, and I couldn't help but grin. "You're both incredible players," she said warmly. "I always see the two of you on the cover of your school paper. I'm sure there are big things waiting for each of you." "Thank you," I replied, chuckling softly. "Yeah, hopefully." "I have one last question before the game starts," Naomi said with a teasing smile. "Ready?" I nodded, a little curious. She leaned in slightly, eyes gleaming with interest. "How's your love life? Any special someone in the team captain's picture?" I tried not to roll my eyes, though I really wanted to. Everyone always asked that question. With a small laugh, I shrugged. "No girls in the picture," I said casually. Naomi tilted her head, clearly intrigued. "Oh, not for you?" "Not for me," I said with a playful grin, leaning a little closer so my voice was caught clearly on the recorder. "Let's just say, that's not the team I play for." Naomi's eyes widened for a brief moment before she broke into a delighted smile. "Really?" she asked softly, clearly surprised but genuinely supportive. "Hold the applause," I said with a smirk, though deep down I was used to this kind of reaction. "Yeah, I like guys. It's not a big deal. At least, it shouldn't be." She blinked, still smiling. "Are you open about it? Does your team know?" "The team knows," I said. "As for everyone else, they will soon enough. It doesn't change how I play, and it definitely doesn't change who I am. Hopefully, it won't affect how scouts see me either. But if it does, that's on them." Naomi nodded thoughtfully, clearly impressed. "I'm really happy you shared that, Trevor. Do you want me to include this part in my article? If you'd rather keep it private, I can." "Put it all in," I said firmly. Her smile widened. "All right then. Good luck out there, Trevor. It was a pleasure meeting you." "Thanks," I said, shaking her hand. "You too." As Naomi walked away, I took a deep breath. I'd just come out to one of the most well-known teen journalists around, on record. And for once, it didn't scare me. The announcer's voice echoed through the stadium, snapping me back to reality. I ran back inside where Coach and the rest of the team were huddled together, going over the game plan. Coach looked up and sighed in relief. "Daly, about time you showed up." "Sorry, Coach," I said quickly. He nodded. "All right, everyone understands the plan, right? Trevor's already up to speed." "Yes, Coach," I confirmed. The team erupted in cheers, high fives, and laughter. The adrenaline was starting to kick in, and my heart pounded against my chest. "Let's do this," Dave shouted, and the room exploded with energy. Through the chaos, I caught Nate's eyes across the room. He smiled at me and I smiled back. "On 3, I shouted, placing my hand in the center of the huddle. One by one, the others followed. 1, I yelled. 2, Nate joined in. 3, we all roared together, raising our hands and shouting in unison. Coach grinned and pointed toward the tunnel. Owen was the first to sprint out, followed by Mitchell, Mark, Greg, and the others. Nate and I were the last ones following Dave and Brock. As we stepped into the bright stadium lights, I found Nate's hand and gave it a quick squeeze. "Ready?" I asked through the noise. "Yeah," he said, smiling beneath his helmet. "Are you?" I let go of his hand, gave him a gentle shove, and jogged ahead, sliding my helmet on as the crowd erupted in cheers. The stands were packed, waves of red filling the seats, people shouting our names, clapping, whistling. My nerves buzzed like electricity. I looked over at Dave, who already looked like he might pass out. At the far end of the field, the opposing team huddled together, pretending to look intimidating. I smirked. "Yeah," I muttered to myself, thinking about Nate's question again. "I'm ready for this." Then, cupping my hands around my mouth, I shouted toward my team, "Let's go out there and show them who we are." And with that, the game began. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.